Hey, this is Karila with Metal Life Magazine. I am here with Alex from Fallujah, celebrating the Summer Slaughter Tour here in Santa Ana. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well.
Good, yeah. You were out there looking busy on your laptop selling merch. How's all this going in the first 2 days?
Really well, yeah. It's one of those things where the first few days of tour where you're getting all your logistics set up, it's like it's chaos, and especially the fact that it started on the West Coast where there's like so many friends of ours. Like
right.
The first few days is always nuts, and it's like I'm saying hi to 10 million people and walking away because I got like so much to do. But a few days into the tour, everything kind of chills out and cools down. And
are you usually so consumed with your own stuff, getting your merch and the logistics of tickets and stuff like that, that you don't have time to say hi to epic bands like Morbid Angel and Goat who just played?
Yeah, I mean, we have a whole month to hang out, and like, for example, like we toured with Goat before. We know the guys for a long time. We're about to do Europe with them again.
That's awesome.
Met one of the guys in Morbid Angel before, but like one of the cool things about this tour is that, for the most part, every single band on this tour knows each other in one way or another. So like
really?
Everybody has either toured with each other once or like knows someone who knows someone. Like everyone has a connection to every band, so it's kind of like one big group of people who like kind of can all commingle with each other. So that's what's big.
So it's kind of like the seven links or whatever.
Seven degrees of separation.
7 degrees of separation. That's it. Thank you very much.
I think it's 6 degrees of separation. Actually.
6, 7.
Whatever it is. But no.
Like whatever number we
want. But it's even less than that. It's like the 2 degrees of separation because everyone's like shared merch guys, shared tour managers, whatever it is.
Shared music genres, shared preferences and stuff like that.
For the most part, yeah, exactly.
No, I think something that's really unique about this show here, specifically at the Observatory, is when I've come to shows here, it's usually been the Constellation Room, is like a hip-hop or some other genre, and then you've got metal competing there. But we've had 2 stages of bands tonight. Have you gotten a chance to check out the other local bands, or what was your reaction when you found that out?
Well, I mean, for locals, like, it's always one of those things where, of course, they put them on the show to sell pre-sales, and for the Summer Slaughter Tour, it's not that common because, there's fucking 10 bands on the package, It's a lot of bands to be playing.
There's a lot of bands.
So, I remember, we did that for a while. You're playing side stages, and a lot of times on your own tours, you're playing the side stages, and I guess it's maybe not so much about where you're playing, it's who's watching you. So yeah. I remember being in that exact same position where, you're competing with other bands on other stages or whatever it is, and so I think it's cool they have other bands who are able to hang out and play and sell merch and whatever they want to do, and I think it's a good opportunity for them. Yeah.
Your new album, Flesh Prevails, it's not even out yet, and I can already tell you by the raving reviews I've seen that it is going to prevail. There have been a lot of reviews that have said that you're not progressive in the sense of the genre, but you're progressive in the sense you're making a new type of metal. What do you think about comments like this, and what do you think they mean to you and the rest of the band?
Well, I think it's kind of exactly what you're trying to do. I think for us, we didn't really set out in mind, because the truth of the matter is, whether we were trying to or not, we made the album we wanted to make.
Right.
We couldn't have made the album any differently, because then it would have been sacrificing what we were honestly doing.
Right.
I think for us, at least kind of, a lot of us are tired of the formula. And I feel like there's a lot of formula going on these days in metal, where it's like, there's a lot of great bands, but there's not a whole lot of envelope being pushed. And I think that you have all these kids who love the genre, and especially new fans, fans whether they're coming from like the hardcore scene or whether they're coming from the indie scene or like basically like any of the many paths one can come to aggressive music. I remember being a kid growing up, and there was all these movements. I remember when, a lot of the screamo and hardcore bands started getting big. I remember when all the metalcore bands got big. I remember when all the deathcore bands got big. I remember when there was the groups of bands coming up with each other, and there was like kind of this feeling of momentum.
Right.
I feel like it's kind of different now. And for us, we're kind of alone in the sense where we wanted to create something that was completely fresh and put metal in a perspective where it's not necessarily, where it can be brutal and it can be technical, but that's not really what we're trying to do, where it's more so about where you affect people emotionally, where it's not escapist, it's not fantastical, it's not outer worldly, it's not overly philosophical or based on myth and that kind of mythos of bands, kind of especially lyrically, and the lyrics in this case go hand in hand with the melodies, where it's kind of I want to say fuck all of that. I want to bring everything back down to earth to the point where when we're writing riffs and trying to create an atmosphere, it's more so when it's how does this make you feel? We're writing a riff. What emotions does this melody extract? And I guess maybe the biggest goal, it's where a part can be nostalgic. have they never heard
Right.
it before? And that's what we try to do on this album. It brings back whatever individual people have, like, oh, that riff just fucking like brings back, you know, memories of melancholy, memories of depression, memories of like lust, memories of like all kinds of different emotions, and that's kind of what we wanted to achieve, and all the different lyrical topics all kind of tie into that, which was super exciting for us.
That's extremely thoughtful of you, because before, like you were mentioning, like all those scenes when the music got rougher and louder, that was all external. Yeah. And while that does make you feel something internally, I love that your music really turns inward and says, like, let's look at the extremes you already sort of have in you and translate that thought that you already have, this kind of innate thought, into music.
Well, and I think, you know, metalheads are obviously a certain demographic of individuals, and I think they all often look to metal because it's an escape from the, you know, normalities of everyday life. And my approach is not to escape from the things that you fear, escape from the things that bring you down, or escape from the things that sort of, you know, pollute your positivity, and it more so faces them head on. That's basically what the whole concept of the album is about, is self-empowerment, whether, like I said, either emotionally, socially, sexually, like any kind of way that you can kind of better yourself, in a sense of like finding yourself in those dark places and then like benefiting from it and kind of like growing stronger that way.
Right. So with that psychological concept, how do you think that relays in your artwork with the really romantic looking, pure woman and this kind of demon falling out? How do those, I mean, I can see how they correlate, but I would love to hear from you how that kind of artwork came about to translate that message.
It's super weird because, I mean, there's a certain amount of creative freedom that we have with our band because like I do all of our artwork, and so like all of the guys in the band kind of have their input, like all of our shirt designs and everything like that, and like all of our layouts I do. So we kind of like can really harness as a band what we want.
Okay.
Where it's not like, okay, you're giving some guy $500 and hopefully it's good. Where we have our own control of things. But for our full-length albums, we always like bringing someone else in and getting a different perspective, switching it up from just the shit that I normally do. And I'd followed Thomas Outland Kopra, who was the Polish artist who did the original paintings for our cover, and it just represented like we were shopping around for a long time. We were kind of coming up with a lot of dog shit, and then we saw that and realized that, you know, no band had really claimed it, and we were just like, this is it, like that's the exact one. And then it turned out to be really affordable, so we bought so we bought like 3 different pieces, and then it was my job to kind of make it cohesive and make, you know. But if you look at the cover, it represents exactly what the album is about, where you kind of have like the insecurities of this kind of old withering man dying under his own weight, and then you kind of have this like elegant young woman like prevailing and ascending up to the heavens, and it's like that dichotomy between like self-doubt versus self-empowerment.
In your album, still, like, I wouldn't call you progressive metal for anything, but your sounds are more or less sort of progressive in the sense that there's not the normal like backbeat to headbang to or to mosh to, in a sense. So I'd like to know from you, what kind of reaction tells you that you're getting the best possible response from the crowd?
That's kind of the issue, actually. Like, I want kids to like jump up on stage, and I love all that kind of shit. And so that's why we like playing like certain songs live, where you can kind of get that response. And that's in a lot of ways more like my responsibility, is like evoking that out of the crowd, because music on its own is like almost not even relevant to crowd response. If you can have a vocalist who can like evoke that out of people, you can have two bands playing the exact same type of music, and if their vocalist can kind of crack it out of them to get them psyched up enough to where they're willing to kind of put that physical effort into the live show, you're almost tricking kids into like thinking you're putting on a better show than you really are. Because it's funny how like you enjoy shows where you see lots of crowd participation. A band can play the 2 same identical sets, but if the crowd is going nuts, you'll walk away being like, wow, that was killer.
Right.
And so like it's just the energy of shows is almost more important than anything else.
Because you guys have that responsibility of having this deep music. How can you get the message across to people while also getting the energy that you want? You know what I mean? Because the message behind your music is really deep and something that people be like, yeah, let's mosh to internalizing our psychological turmoil. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of that's the complex of our band, is figuring that out. But I think, I mean, the harsh truth is that a lot of guys in metal kind of don't really give a shit about the lyrics, so they're gonna mosh to whatever they think is heavy, and I'm not gonna tell them to stop. But then there will be, you know,